Blood froze on the battlefield, not from cold alone, but from exhaustion, hunger, and fear. Imagine a medieval soldier waking before dawn, armour still damp from sweat or rain, a sword heavier than your arm, and knowing that by nightfall half your comrades may lie dead, and victory may still be beyond reach. Here is the shocking reality. The worst days in a soldier's life were not defined by glory or heroics, but by relentless misery, disease, starvation, and chaos. Battles were brutal, but the marches between them were often deadlier. Men tramped for miles through mud, snow, or scorching sun, carrying not just weapons, but shields, rations, and hope that rarely sufficed. And here is the paradox. Despite all this suffering, armies kept moving, sieges endured, and empires shifted, all on the backs of men who were often ill-equipped, underfed, and terrified. Tonight we step into the mud, blood, and exhaustion of the medieval soldier, revealing the grim realities behind the legends, exploring the ingenuity that kept men alive, and exposing how survival often mattered more than victory in the harshest, most forgotten days of war. To understand why these days were so devastating, we must first see the conditions that framed them. Medieval armies were often enormous, but poorly supplied. Supply chains were primitive. Food was limited to salted meats, hard bread, and sometimes spoiled grains, while water could be contaminated or scarce. Soldiers wore heavy armour, chainmail or plate that provided protection, but also sapped energy and trapped heat during long marches. Campaigns lasted months, and soldiers slept wherever possible, in barns, tents, or open fields, often soaked and shivering. Disease ran rampant, from dysentery to typhus, exacerbated by close quarters and poor hygiene. Weather added another layer of torment. Freezing winters or pouring rains turned roads to mud, making every march a trial of endurance. Even battle strategy was relentless. Long sieges demanded constant vigilance, forced labour to build defences, and near-starvation conditions for attackers and defenders alike. These factors combined to make certain days in a soldier's life pure hell. Yet, through observation, improvisation, and collective experience, soldiers developed survival techniques that allowed armies to continue, despite conditions that might have broken less disciplined groups. Yet, through observation, improvisation, and collective experience, soldiers developed survival techniques that allowed armies to continue, despite conditions that might have broken less disciplined groups. Yet, through observation, improvisation, and collective experience, soldiers developed survival techniques that allowed armies to continue, despite conditions that might have broken less disciplined groups. Here's the clever part. Survival in the worst days was not accidental, it was tactical. Soldiers rotated rest shifts during sieges, forming staggered watches to maintain both security and energy. Armour and clothing were layered to balance protection with mobility and warmth, often adjusted based on terrain and weather. Food management became a science. Salted meat lasted longer than fresh, grains were rationed carefully, and foraging or local requisition supplemented meagre supplies. Fire was a precious resource. Soldiers learned to build small, contained hearths to conserve heat without revealing positions to enemies. Even morale became a tool of survival. Songs, stories, and rituals helped men endure stress, fear, and physical strain. Communication and signals were perfected to prevent confusion and friendly fire. These lessons were learned in the field, often passed orally and embedded in military culture long before modern manuals existed. The knowledge faded only as professional armies, with standardized logistics, replaced the medieval militia model. But the underlying principles, energy management, adaptation to environment, and tactical self-preservation, remain timeless strategies for human endurance under extreme stress. Modern life may seem far removed from mud-soaked battlefields, but these lessons are surprisingly relevant. Disaster response, wilderness survival and endurance sports all mirror the same principles medieval soldiers relied on: rationing energy and food, maintaining warmth and hydration, coordinating teamwork, and managing stress in high-pressure environments. Even project management or high-stakes modern operations benefit from their approach. Staggered shifts, strategic rest, and contingency planning echo siege rotations. Awareness of environment, terrain, weather, available resources is critical, whether in a military campaign, a survival scenario, or energy management in daily life. Soldiers' adaptations to poor nutrition, cold, and fatigue can inform how we prepare for scarcity, power outages, or extreme conditions. The medieval battlefield was a laboratory of human resilience, a place where observation, improvisation, and endurance were refined under the harshest conditions imaginable. By studying these worst days, we see patterns of survival that remain relevant whenever humans face extended physical and psychological strain. The ultimate takeaway is that courage and endurance are inseparable from preparation, observation, and adaptation. The worst days of medieval soldiers were not just battles against enemies, they were battles against exhaustion, starvation, and environmental forces beyond their control. Their survival depended as much on clever strategies, discipline, and ingenuity as on weapons or numbers. By examining their experience, we reconnect with a timeless understanding. Survival requires energy management, environmental awareness, and cooperation under stress. Modern comfort masks these lessons, but they remain vital for anyone facing scarcity or extreme conditions. If this journey into mud, blood, and endurance reshaped your understanding of human resilience, carry it forward. Apply the principles, share the stories, and remember that history's harshest trials often reveal the smartest strategies. Survival is never just about strength. It is about intelligence, observation, and the ability to endure what seems unbearable.